right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me for my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. My name is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host today. We're kicking this off January in the new year, 2019. So happy new year, and thank you for returning back to tune into my podcast episodes where I aim to inspire and motivate you so you can have a better life, because I do believe everyone deserves it, especially if you put the good effort to it, right? Good deeds reinforce the goodness in your life, where the bad deeds do not. So for this topic, I'm focusing on ineffective training is ineffective leadership. And this came to me, I did a previous podcast last year in my season, also another one I think this year for 2018, 2019, where training is very important when you want to train your staff. And so that's the focus for today. So let me go ahead and get started. So in this day, I am thankful to the prime creator of all things, that I give thanks for this blessing and opportunity, that I will use it for the greater good. So welcome, my survivors of the journey, to my podcast that aims to inspire and motivate, that you will continue to have joy, peace of mind, and for your sustained success. So let's get started. So in this ineffective training is ineffective leadership. I'm basically putting the whole responsibility right in front of leadership. Leadership that is ineffective to be the main creator of their training programs, that it has to process their products and services by training the employees sufficiently. When you produce ineffective trainers that negatively impact employees and customers, everybody suffers. Therefore, the trainers are ineffective as well. So when they lose the sight to motivate the new hires, or even the staff that's being trained for the system updates or what have you, with the information that they need, useful content that informs the new hire, or again, the already staff employee, for their professional development, it takes away the overall objective of your brand value. Now, why do I mention brand value? Anybody in business know that that's what the customer wants to know. Is it worth it to spend my hard-earned money on your product or service when the employee doesn't really understand what's going on, don't understand how to problem solve, don't understand, on and on. And that's basically mainly from the training. Okay, so my wisdom point is that leadership that claim that they want to serve a high value quality product or service as a way to be able to increase customers base that they want to, you got to understand the basic of that is the same training, is the same thing as showing your value of your product. Okay, so I want to repeat that. Leadership that claim wanting to serve a high value quality product or service, at the same time providing an equal amount of training, but it is not. It is unbalanced. It's not existent. That produces anxiety in the training programs by new hires, ridding with all types of broken information or channels to how to connect one thought or process to why this process is happening, how you can process it, the scenarios that come into play where the employee we encounter with the customer is important and shouldn't be overlooked. It shouldn't just be read out like, it shouldn't be a memorizing game of the details that need that extra type of marinating for that particular new hire to understand fully. So the anxiety that comes about is where the new hire feels that because the trainers probably was, or they just the wrong trainer. And see, everybody can't be a trainer. Just like I'm going to say it, everybody can't be a mother. Everybody can't be a father. Now they can talk the talk, they can do that, but that's one element of it. You actually got to be committed. And so that's where the hiring comes back from leadership, to make sure they're hiring the right trainers and they are putting in place that the trainers are doing what they said that they would do before they got hired. If not, you will have an anxiety ridden parted type of training program, and the expectation to get a knowledge team afterwards will not exist. So you can't expect a knowledgeable staff that won't address the core issues or what need to be in the training to get it done, that can address to serve the customers. It is an insanity state of mind and a form of greed when you get surveys back from customers and they're telling you, I didn't spend this money to the point that so and so couldn't understand what I was saying, wasn't up to par of what I was told on the last phone call, and basically it seems like that person was inexperienced. So the pursuit to gain more revenue incoming cannot be the primary objective. It cannot be the only thing that you invested in to get, meaning that you're investing necessary elements to advertise your product and service, but you're not investing in the training of employees. See, this I think is the takeaway from the last decade or so, and other people have written about this, is that most companies now are just focusing on the productivity of it, the production of the product, and then advertising to get the revenue. And then they have high turnovers because nobody is coming back to the human resources fundamental way of connecting with their staff and their employees so they can feel confident and good about themselves. When has any really type of team made it anywhere with not a motivating element? It doesn't happen. So it can't be focusing on the revenue coming in, but not really truly invested in the complete circle of that work productivity, which is the training. Now, overall, why is this going on? We touched on that, like I mentioned. It is about greed. It is laziness. I like to say to be lazy and greedy is the worst in leadership, that don't want to fix their training program. Now, if you're a leader and you feel that you do want to make the change, you do want to take a look, and you want strategies to how to do it, before I end this podcast, I'm going to talk on that. Right now, this is mainly focused to do another, hey, red alert, as others in the community that want to educate and talk a discussion about the ineffectiveness of training. So it creates limited learning opportunities. It refuses to allow the new hire or even the staff understanding of the fundamentals of the concept to produce the product that you just advertised to your customers. All right? And it prevents everybody learning effectively because everybody learns differently, right? So why not create a less difficult type program that people can grasp and do studies on that? Or if you don't have the resources, which I'm mainly talking about the ones that do but don't, but nonetheless, you got to be creative to make sure that it works. If not, it creates a very difficult, like I said, anxiety, which leads to stress. Stress is unhealthy. And I think that's wrong when you create a circumstance where the employee is so stressed or the new hire is so stressed, because that affects our health. And most companies don't want to have their health costs overall going up. Then you do the things that would track from, and stress is the number one element of that. It creates an embarrassment, intimidation, stressful training program that is ineffective across the board. When customers survey and they state their experience with the inexperienced employee, that takes away from your value. It's not what they thought the brand was worth, what they paid for. It's a big indicator that you are at fault. The company is at fault, not really the employee. Right? The employee just get the rough end of it, of a customer being mad and angry and so forth, which creates what? Stress. So moreover, when new hires or staff leave, creating mass turnover because they're not getting the training. Okay, so it's an unhealthy mental unrest of their peace that harms them from mentally improving in a sense that they're more peaceful. It hurts them physically and spiritually because it's just internal. And it's something that you want to try to achieve, to learn the job and do good and feel good about yourself, and they don't. And then the trainers, if they're ineffective, meaning they don't really know everything, or they have a bully type of training, which is intimidation, and they're busy asking the new hire what's the answer instead of them giving you it's a training program. Like I said, everybody's not a mother, everybody's not really a father. They might came together to create the creation. The trainer might came together to read out the content, but you got to teach it, and when you teach it, you got to be all in. All right, if not, it demonstrates what is worse, and it signals to leadership they are not aware and they don't care. So who are we really talking about? Like I said, again, it's basically the leadership. They are responsible. That's the bottom line. Within senior leadership, it's the management to control your resources. You use your human resources team. And if you're a small business owner and you do all hats, then heck, I'm just talking to you, right? So it don't stop just with the trainer that is hired is not communicating and producing knowledgeable staff that probably got promoted within the team or what have you. It just continue on and on conducting the learning, the ineffective of the learning. It just keeps going. And the horrible training is a full stop at the leadership feet. So what exactly are some of the additional signs and what happened? The needed change is that it needs to focus on how it's impacting the mental unrest, all right, the disruption of peace. And when an employee mind is not in a peaceful state, it causes disturbance in your organization. So you got to get involved. You got to be responsible. You got to stop delegating tasks and training classes to those that are two-faced. And I meant two-faced that sometimes people that you hire put on a one type face where you can hire them and they seem so nice and da-da-da. And then in the training class, you get reports that, it was awful. It was this, I couldn't connect or something, or people crying or what have you. That's a big indicator that the trainer's not fit. Because sometimes people walk through one door and be one person, then they walk through another and be something else. So you have to be involved and be in tune to what the people are getting, because sometimes people are good on one side of the road and sometimes they're not. So everybody can't teach. As I mentioned before, it takes a strong patient type of person to have empathetic type expression, because those that are learning needs a steady, approachable, motivated, and knowledgeable trainer, not a bully, not a fast track to say you're going to learn this in 1 hour. I'm going to just read it off and then I'm going to ask you questions, right? Not a one fits all type training that hardly ever teaches on the core of processes and why they work, and why the faster way to produce a certain element of this whole production line matters. See, all of that ties into it. It's a way that you can connect and show, and you show visuals, you show different components, different elements that come together to fit that pie, not just to produce people on an assembly line where the trainer is just reading off things, showing you this and that, especially if the task like over 3 or 5 things you got to do doesn't work. So let's get to the strategies to succeed so we can get effective trainers and effective training program, that we will have effective leadership. The first thing, leadership has to take ownership of your decision in designing the training program. You got to be active. You got to set up a feedback form that is direct. It's anonymous, so therefore you get more honest feedback. Okay, they don't need to put their name on it. They don't need to really go through an email. You can set it at one of those survey.com sites, and they can go there and they can give their feedback and be anonymous. Okay, that's what you want. All right, so you want to take that training and steer that like a captain on a ship. You want to lead. Okay, no matter what level of authority that you in, that in the sense of who over the training, the head top needs to get involved, and you got to stay involved. You got to make sure who is teaching. Do they have the skills? You have to come and read, and sometimes you have to be present, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you send someone else that they don't know that's actually monitoring them to make sure that the information is getting through. It will relieve so much mental unrest to deliver the training and put them on check if they're not. That is faulty, and you measure the training and you set up checkpoints to assure they are grasping the knowledge and processes. And if not, you find out why and you fix it. Now you remove any trainers that teach on a bully platform. It's a disservice to those that want to learn, and any sub leaders that tolerate it, that they immediately point to. That's why I'm going to the head top, because I feel that's who's responsible. You can delegate and say do this, and you think it's just getting done. But the key indicator, and I keep saying, is the high turnover. If you have a lot of people not completing the training classes, you have a lot of people leaving and so forth right after they started or what have you, it's a problem. And that's not leadership. That's just someone processing the productivity to get the revenue coming in, and not actually looking at the problem that you have to. A team fits together. Everybody helps one another. It doesn't create a toxic environment, and it produces no experience in the sense that you have major mental disturbance. Okay? You want to produce mental peace for employees and less stress, not high stress that impacts their well-being, which is wrong. It's wrong to put someone in a predicament that they don't know, they want to know, but the training won't give them the information to know. If they don't know, how in the world are you really going to serve your customer to reinforce your brand identity and, more importantly, your brand value? Customers don't like to spend nothing if the value isn't there. What's the point of telling them this is the company for you, this is the service, and they go through the whole process and they treat it as if they're telling the employee more information instead of the employee doing the opposite? You see what I'm saying? So you can't rush that. If you can spend $3 million on an ad to promote the company, you should spend just as much on training, if not more, and continue to work at it. So your task to Dusk to Dawn is to measure your training output. You set up ways to determine if knowledge is retained with employees, and you get in the know of using effective tools. If your software is about 20 years old, do you have a 20 years old smartphone? Okay, think about that. So you got to stop holding to those dinosaurs practices, or worse, the software don't work, is not effective, is rather ineffective due to the systems being outdated, and the enormous data is continuing to hold. You got to be creative. I believe they have the cloud system now. Okay, you got to look at different elements of using resources that are effective. It's 2019. Okay, it's going to be a couple more years in the future. Get ahead of the game. If you can afford thousands on commercials and to advertise, then you can afford your training program. You got to get invested. You got to create a healthy, mental, peaceful training environment and work environment after a training. Still support and watch your customer base soar due to their interactions with a high morale staff and knowledgeable staff that was trained. So your motivational takeaway is this: training is a reflection of leadership being effective to produce knowledgeable employees that can confidently do their job with a high morale that impresses your customers. Workers want to feel confident in doing their jobs and reinforcement from their immediate leaders that they are contributing, and they feel that they are contributing to know their job, doing their job, and the customers give that back in that interaction that produces wonderful results for increased revenue. So you have to take the time in designing a training program and measuring the training program, having people come in. They do, like, I think it's called mystery shoppers or mystery people come in and just measure the delivery of the training from the trainers. All right, and get a perspective back of what's going on. That's the bottom line if you want to be a successful leader and a successful company. Think about how many mistakes are made by untrained, ineffective training to their new hires and their employee staff. Count the dollars and see, is it really worth it, right? And determine about the software. If the software is outdated, count and see, is it really worth it? And I would gather to believe that it is not. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this short and sweet. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me go over a couple of things. So I do offer professional development courses. Right now I have available leadership, and I also have Blueprint for Your Success. Go ahead and check those courses out. They are self-paced, so you can go ahead and take one of those courses. You can complete it how long that you want, and they're very enriching in getting you where you need to be. All right, also sign up for my newsletter. Please don't forget that. If you've been following me for a while, go on ahead and connect to the next level and sign up for my newsletter. The other thing is, don't forget to purchase my Corporate America book. It's Corporate America: Surviving Your Journey to Success. Okay, and you can get that at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any bookstore. Also, any questions that you might have, please go ahead and email me at info@nichelanderson.com, especially if you want to know more about my courses that I'm offering that you can take. Go ahead and drop me a line, and please follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Those are the two major social platforms that I'm on for my, official brand. Okay. Now, my podcast releases basically is every Monday at 10 a.m. Okay, Eastern Time. And just to wrap up, thank you so much for joining me today again. And I want to leave you with my statement that I always want to inspire you. Be you that strengthens and inspires your ability to be strong in your journey endeavor. It's a good thing towards your mental peace and joy, always to your success.